Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and what I want to do is just explore a little bit more of SolidJS. I've been reading through the documentation, and it actually has like a lot of really cool features that I figured let's try out. I'll try them out live with you. I haven't tried them out yet, so let's just see here. Okay, so in the beginning, like here in the rendering section, like JSX is JSX. You guys get the point. If you've used React, attributes and props, all that stuff is pretty familiar. Okay, this is just kind of talking about like how it gets rendered to the DOM. So this is just like React, where if I go to the index.js, what it does is it runs a render function which targets a particular component towards a particular spot on the DOM. So if I go to the index.html, which should be in this public folder, we see here there's just a div. Although while I am here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a section element there because I want to test something out. That'll be coming up. Okay. Now, mentioned in my to-do list video, they have a cool little take on events. So events work the same way as they would on React. Okay. And looks like they actually even have like a directive. Let me just see here. To allow casing for delegation. If you want, use different event. Yep. So they have like an on thing, kind of like the way it works in like for example, Vue or Angular or Svelte. So I can say like on, then an event. Okay, so that's pretty cool. But the main cool thing about events, and I'm going to just use the same like to-do list app that we just built in that previous video. So I'm just going to get that started, except I'm going to like clear this out. Let me go back to app.js. Okay, I'm just gonna empty this all out. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create a button. Okay, and let's try a few things. Let's create some function. And what I want to do is say const event func equals. Now the cool thing is that usually when you write an event function, you do something like event. Okay, and basically if I wanted, so in this case let's try the directive, like on click equals. Okay, it's probably complaining because it thinks it's like just pure JSX. Okay, or Solid is complaining. Let's see what it says here. Must be assigned. Okay, yeah, it needs it. But usually what you would do is like if I need to pass like extra arguments to it, you would pass an arrow function. And in that arrow function that would receive the event, you would then call like your function, be like event func, and then you would just say like e whatever whatever in your other arguments. Okay? So you're calling a function to call a function. Now the cool thing about Solid, okay, and let me just see here. Do I need to do this at camel case here on weird event? See the limits list. Delegation solution works well with web components in the shadow DOM as well. This list and event lister. For casing to work on all custom events, should allow for lowercase convention of native elements. If you want to, okay, so that's if you're using custom events. I will just change this to on click. Okay, but that's normally like how that would work. Now what I can do here though is I can do something like this, where instead of passing, I pass the array and I will say event func, and then I'll pass like, we'll say the string cheese. And this gets passed as like a first argument to event func, and then the event. So essentially it's doing the same thing, except without me having to write the explicit arrow function towards the arrow function. So now I can say like thing event, and then I can console log thing, and then console log event. And let's see if that works. So if I go over here to the page, there's the button, which probably should have some text in it. So let's just say click me. Okay, and then I'm going to open up my terminal. I'm going to click it, and I should get cheese first and then the event object. And that's exactly what I get. So that's cool. That just makes it easier when you need to pass multiple arguments to a function. You don't necessarily need to write two functions. You can just pass the array. Not the biggest, game changer in the world, but I can definitely see I think this is like a little bit clearer, saying run this function, pass this before the event, versus wrapping a function call in an arrow function, which sometimes, if you're not very comfortable with like functions, can be a little like why for some people. So that's pretty cool. Okay, spreads. Let's see what they're talking about here. Solid's first spread operator elements and components will not able to be optimized for component. These are useful for forwarding data through. Okay, so this is just the idea. We could do this in React where you could like spread props. So that's not necessarily new. Control flow. Okay. While you could use the map function too. Oh, okay, cool. So they have like a built-in way to handle like a looping here, which is something React lacks. In React, you have to use map. Here, they actually have a thing. So basically, let's see how the format it is. You use for, and then you say each, so that's the array. And then you can create like a fallback, meaning like, if this doesn't work out, it'll just say no users. So that's kind of nice. So let's try that out. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll create an array. I'm just going to get rid of all this stuff over here. So let's just say const or r equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then let's go in here and let before the button. So we'll do a for. And it's going to be for each r fallback equals, we'll say div no nums. Okay. And then in between, what do? We just pass a function. Essentially the same thing as if you did map. You're still writing the function, but this makes it a little bit more explicit what you're doing. And again, explicit, more descriptive code is always good, because when people see a map, they don't always automatically like know what's going on. So basically, I'm saying here for each thing in this array r, so we'll call, and then when you pass in a function, just saying for each thing in that array, what I want to do is return, we'll say h1 r. Okay, and let's see if that works. Reference event func is not defined. Oh, that's right, I deleted event func. So let me just delete the button. Okay. It's not quite doing what I wanted to do. So for each, let me go take a look at the docs. For each, now they are not optimized. Perhaps not as big a deal in the VDOM-based libraries, since they always execute all the code from top down repeatedly anyways. But Solid is designed to avoid doing that, so we rarely rely on techniques like that. So this is complicated and requires special methods, with Solid exposes through JSX control flow syntax. Control flows can be imported from SolidJS, but as a convenience, the compiler will automatically import them from SolidJS web. Okay. So key listed iteration, item, we're not going in a second. Okay, so we could grab the index. So it's a thing that I need to import for. Oh, I see. I didn't write num here. There we go. There was my mistake. Still not rendering the thing. Go here. There's a div. So maybe I do need to import. So we'll say for. Okay, let's try this again. Let's go back to the docs. It is for with an uppercase. For each state dot list item div. Solid is designed to avoid doing that. Should I make it when it's boolean? So there's like show. I get what those are. First, we need to get it to work. Div loading. I wonder if the React Dev Tools, like click in. What's this? Axe Dev Tools. Okay, I think this is something else. Oh, I think it's for like accessibility or something. I'll come back to that. Okie dokie. Console. H1. Oh, because I wrote curly brackets around it. My bad. Oh my god, I'm sloppy today. I should write return or take off the curly brackets. And there we go. It works. Yay! It works. Okay, cool. So you can write like conditional logic like that. That's pretty nice and intuitive. I like that. Okay, we can do like a show. So this is like conditional pieces of your code. So if I do this, go back here, show when fallback. Okay. So we'll just say here for when we'll create another variable. So we'll say const show equals true for now. So we'll say show when show. Okay. And we'll just say, hey, what we're going to show at that point is h1 hello world. So right now, show is true. So I should be able to see the hello world. Hello world. Now let me change show to false. Cool. That works. That is pretty cool. Okay, and switch match. Let's see how this. So this looks like it's just going to be like a router kind of thing. Okay, state.route. So equals home settings. Yeah, so this is just something you could do, is just basically use it like a router. Okay, async component, suspense, fallback, div loading. Let's try this out. I've never used suspense before, so I do need to read up a little bit more on that. But just basically reading this looks like what it does is that you create an asynchronous component, and if the component fails to load, it's going to just fall back to this. So this way you don't have to put all that conditional logic as we would normally do in React. So I'm going to assume it's that, but I'm going to maybe do a separate video on that. Error boundary, something went terribly wrong. So you put, okay, so it's like a try catch block. Okay, something goes wrong in there, and then it shows a fallback. Okay, that's pretty nice. Okay, because yeah, we've all seen those errors in React where basically we did something wrong and the page just won't render. Okay, this is just another way of looping, except what it does, it just uses the index automatically as a key vet property. It's primitives, and it is in the index that is fixed rather than the value. Use nested reactivity when the data is simple, strings, numbers, are not models. Okay, dynamic. This is just like the past props one. I don't find that. This is cool. I like this. Portal. This is in React, but basically what it does. So this is where that section thing comes in. So what I can do is I'll say portal, and we'll do portal mount. So then I have to like target the element. So mount. So where do I want to mount this thing? And I want to mount it where document dot query selector, and we're going to select the section tag. Okay. And then we're just going to say, hey, h3 something something. So what this should be doing is that instead of just putting this inside of this component, so instead of being inside this whole div of app, this is on this h3 will be posted where that section tag is. It's going to like, this is useful because you don't necessarily want to have, maybe you want things in other parts of your page, but you don't want to create multiple renders. Like, you know, you rather keep everything, have one component tree and just render once, but you want to put things in other places in your HTML file. So let's see here, something, something. So let's take a look. Is it in the section tag? And there it is. The div is in the section tag. That's super cool. Okay. Let's see here. Refs. The way refs work are pretty neat. Okay, before you'd have like use a hook to create the ref. Here you just make a variable and just pass it as a ref. Then you got a ref. So that just means you have access to that HTML element. This is useful if you just need to get like normal DOM properties. It's just like if you did query selector on the element and saved it in a variable. Essentially, what this my div ref does. You probably are familiar with refs from React or other frameworks. So I'm not going to go too deep into that. Like, that's not. And then here, it goes into being able to create your own custom directives, which is neat. Okay, I think it implies that use model is built in. So I'm going to try that out. Okay, so if you're not familiar with model from like Vue or Angular, what it does, it just binds your inputs, this two-way binding with your inputs. So kind of like how I was doing that whole handle change thing before, this would make that unnecessary. So I'm going to try to see if that works. Okay, so I'm going to create an input. Okay, there's my input. We'll give it some properties in a second. First, I'm going to do is create a signal. Const get input set input equals create signal, and we'll just start off with an empty string. Okay. And all I'm going to do is I'm still going to create like a handle change function just so we can like get a console log. Log input equals event, and all this is going to do is just console.log get input. We're just going to test that, so see if the input's actually changing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say hand on change equals get input, and then we're going to say use model equals, and how does it do it here? Use model, and you pass in the both sets, so name and set name. So get input set input. Okay, it built successfully. Like, my browser is completed because it thinks it's React. It looks like this kind of got the memo. So let's go to console. Model is not defined. Okay, so let me go over here. Use. Oh, I see. Like, you have to make it. So in this case, you could create this function here. Okay. So let's try that out. And this would essentially do what I need to do. So let's put that here. So let's see here. Function model. Element. Value. Let's think about that. Create render effect. Oh, well, I gotta import create render effect. Create render effect. So we import that. Set field. Value equals field. Create render effect. L.value equals field. Goes value. Now, where's value coming from? Okay, well, let's see what happens here. Now it's not getting. So let's see if it works. Nope. Huh. Use model. So it recognizes the model function, but let's console log what is it getting as arguments. Console.log L value. Refresh that. Why isn't the onChange function running? Let's see here. Get input. Let's go back to that. Input onChange. Get input. Use model. Is it overriding the change function? I think so. So let's bring back the button. And say if the button on click equals get input. Okay. And okay, that's going to just kind of complain for now because it thinks I'm doing not React stuff. Button on click equals get input. Let me just put some text on the button. Oh no, I put get input. It's supposed to be log input. It's the function. Log input. Let's try that. And that works. Okay. That's neat. Okay, cool. So yeah, so you can build your own directives. So like essentially this basically does what use model would do. That's pretty cool. So that, I mean, that could be, so basically you have a lot of really cool tools in here. I'm assuming they'll build out more, and there's even more in the documentation, but the idea is like there's a lot of stuff here that's not necessarily as easy to do in React or out of the box React that we do have here, but you could just do everything almost in the same way you would do it in React. So the more I play with this, the more I'm really liking SolidJS, kind of bringing in all the best parts of all the things and in a nice super fast package. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Subscribe to the YouTube video. Go subscribe to my podcast. Go join the Slack and Discord community over there at devnursery.com. And I'll see you all a little bit later on.